And so, without further ado, off we go.
Gets this backwards. The most lethal blade in a one-on-one fight consistently lost to swords that were slower, shorter, and less impressive. Here's why effectiveness on a battlefield has almost nothing to do with how dangerous a sword actually is. One metric: battlefield longevity. How long did each sword remain the primary military weapon before something better forced it out? And what did it actually take to replace it? Not duel records, not cutting tests, not legend. Real military adoption under real battlefield conditions. The results break almost every assumption you have walking in. Rank 8, Katana.
Okay, we're already gonna start. We're already gonna start with controversy. I'll be honest. Okay, that's
Start here,
balls.
because this break almost every assumption you have walking in. Rank 8.
Okay, katanas. I don't like katanas. I like Western swords more than I like Eastern swords, which is ironic because my first sword style ever that I've trained was Japanese swordsmanship. So I've trained katana style or Japanese swordsman style, like not specifically kendo, more like kenjutsu. I've trained some of that stuff, and I like it. I like it. Katanas are nice. Katanas are very, very cool. The problem is that katanas have some very weak, obvious drawbacks to them. And anyone who's honest about swords and history will tell you, which I think is what this video is going to be about. I've also trained in Chinese swordsmanship. I went to Wudang Mountain and trained Jian, the long, straight, double-edged sword that they have. And nowadays I do arnis as well, as part of my style. So the Filipino style thing. Yeah. And a lot of my the actual stuff that I train by myself and the stuff that I am a lot better at is more Western. So yesterday, for example, we did a knife session at my gym, my dojo, and I used Bowie knife techniques, and I used lots of Western techniques, which is really what the Filipino martial arts is, really, if you get down to it, unless you get down to the nitty-gritty. And I know it's gonna offend a lot of people, and I'm sorry, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. Please don't come at me. But like, the reality is that if you wanna, the long range techniques of stick fighting, of Filipino stick fighting, they're pretty much all cutlass and saber fencing, really. Right. So let's see what this guy's gonna say about this. Oh, I also forgot to put on a timer. I'm such an idiot. I am so disorganized today. Yeah, just today.
Katana. Start here, because this is where most rankings get destroyed in the comments. The katana is a masterpiece. The folding process, the
Hello,
differential
Rad.
hardening, the geometry, all of it is real. But here's what those rankings never tell you. The katana was never the primary weapon on a Japanese battlefield.
Okay, so katanas have great marketing. Every show that I love, everything that I love about anime, about like fantasy, katanas get a front row seat in that. They have great marketing. But he's right. They don't have I don't know why I'm talking with my hands, by the way. I just realized my model can't capture a single Okay. But the reality is that they were never the primary weapon. By the time you get to your katana, you already have fucked up your arrows, your lances, your guns, because around this time, Japanese warriors and formations were based on muskets or arquebuses, right? And so by the time you get to your sword, you've already fucked up so many. It's like basically when modern soldiers use their knife. It means that your rifle has failed, your pistol has failed, and now, it's a yes, it's a history lesson. It's a Captain Rookie has the tism, and it comes out by liking swords, and dude, it's a 9-minute video, and my timer's for 2 hours, so I can't stay that long today. So really, I said it's gonna be a short video, and in my Discord, I'm incapable of not yapping.
Samurai arrived with bows, then spears. The katana came out last, when everything else had failed or broken. Historical records from the Sengoku period confirm that the Yari spear and the naginata were the weapons of mass battlefield deployment.
Spear, yes, 100%. The naginata and any other polearm, right? The halberds, the long like axey things that you have, all of that stuff. That's usually what we would call the rear guard. So it's if horses break through, then you start swinging this. Even the big like montante, like the double-handed, like the giant double-handed swords, like the Zweihander and stuff like that, they were used in the rear guard, and that's in order to stop horses basically from smashing through your ranks and scattering you around. So the naginata wasn't really that effective as the spear. The spear is perfect. The spear is just a big pokey, and really that's how we fight warfare. We haven't changed. We take a big piece of steel, or a smaller piece of steel, and we put it from point A to point B. Point B being the bastard in front of you that you want to kill. And that's basically the spear evolved into guns. We took a piece of lead, or a piece of steel, and we were like, oh yeah, let's increase the distance, and we just started using gunpowder to do
The
that.
sword was personal, ceremonial, and secondary.
Yes.
And when it did enter combat, its limitations were structural, not cultural. The katana's hard edge was optimized for cutting unarmored
This AI bullshit is so not a katana. But okay, so katana differential hardening. Basically, you have a soft, what was it, like a hard core on the inside? No, soft core and hard edge, which means they don't bend, they don't flex as well. They chip, they shatter. They're like Dune. They will chip and shatter, they will break, and in fact of the matter is, around this time, this would be the 1600s, so katanas existed from the 1600s to about the 1800s. It's a 400 yearish period, something like that, if you include the tachi, but the katanas, we know it's about 200 years. Around the time, right, if you were to look at the equivalent of what happens in Japan and in the West, specifically Germany, Switzerland, Austria, those places, their steel was maybe 1,000 times better, and they just don't get the marketing that the katana does. But it was 1,000 times better, and those swords would bend, and they would chip, they would not snap in half. So you could take a bent sword and sort of like put your weight on it, or get a fat bastard to sit on it, and it would straighten out again. Yep.
flesh, strike plate or heavy lamellar, and the edge
What the shit am I looking at? Go away! Actually,
chips. Japanese swordsmanship manuals acknowledge this directly, developing specific techniques to target armor gaps
Yes,
rather
they
than
sit on
cut
it.
through steel. Exactly what European longsword masters were doing with half sorting two
That's a half
centuries
sorting,
earlier.
yeah.
The katana is one of history's finest cutting tools. It is not one of history's most dominant battlefield weapons. Those are two completely different things. Rank
Also-
7, rapier.
Okay, wait, hang on. All katana techniques that I know of do not attack. They basically go for joints, and you're like, oh well, obviously you're not gonna strike, the armored opponent, but they go for joint weaknesses because, well, yeah. What do you mean rapier? Ew. I like rapiers. Rapiers are nice. They're cool, and they're actually more effective than pretty much any other sword ever. They're really very effective. Like, they're scary effective. But they were not a battlefield weapon. They were never used. Well, they were used rarely in the battlefield. There were some styles that did ugly and unnecessarily kills an opponent. Well, wound or kill. No, they do kill. They do kill. What the hell are you talking about? It's a big hole that you're gonna poke in a person. Around this time, okay, medicine had not advanced so much that stabbing wounds could be easily fixed. You know what? I'd much rather die than live with a sword slash. Some of those sword slashes are horrifying. They're just fucking horrifying, man. They're disfiguringly horrifying. And also, like, they will kill you. They'll just take more time, especially given the medicine back then.
The rapier killed more people in documented European history than almost any other sword. That is not an
No, it didn't. No, it did not. The sword you're showing right now, Mr. AI video, is a small sword. It's a rapier's cousin. But they were designed to be a gentleman's like side. I was gonna say side piece. Well, they were basically a dress sword. They were the sort of thing that you would wear like instead of a cane or something like that. Like, a rapier had heft, had weight to it. It was also a cutting sword as well as a thrusting sword, even though it was obviously thrust oriented. They were designed for a battlefield. They failed because of the way you use a rapier is so technical. It has no place in a battlefield. And when we tested this in my MMA gym, We basically were like, we have people that come from a kickboxing or a grappling background or whatever, and they're like, here's a stick. The first thing they do is they start like boinking people on it, over the head, and it's just like poink, poink, poink. That's kind of what they do, because that's the natural thing. And any battlefield, like, yeah, that's so you're not gonna be able to use like precise footwork of rapier. It's like that's not gonna go anywhere. Plus, if everyone is pressed against you and you're, compressed together like sardines in a formation, yeah, nowhere to use footwork.
Rapier killed more people in documented European history than almost any other sword. That is not an exaggeration. Civilian duel records from 16th and 17th century Spain, Italy, and France show the rapier dominating one-on-one encounters with terrifying efficiency.
This is true.
Its reach advantage was decisive. Its
This
thrusting
is also
speed was
true.
unmatched. Then you put it on a battlefield and everything inverts.
Exactly.
The length
The
that
thing
made
that
it
made
lethal
it-
in a duel became a liability
yeah, in a duel,
close
it's a
formation.
liability on that
Soldiers
footwork.
packed shoulder to shoulder cannot
Exactly.
execute the precise footwork.
God, it's as if I know what I'm talking about, dude. It's as if I know what I'm talking about. Also, this AI image is is just fucked. How many hands are you looking at, chat? It's 1, 2, a half, 3. How many blades are there? There's 1 here, there's 2 here, and then there's this thing right here that's just the more the better.
Rapier technique demanded. The narrow blade that slipped between ribs in a duel bent or snapped under the lateral
That is
stress of
also
a
true.
cavalry charge. Military commanders across Europe tried the rapier, evaluated it, and systematically replaced it with shorter, sturdier weapons.
Yeah, the problem of the rapier was that it was too long and too bendy. And as every guy knows, sometimes the longer and the bendier it is, the less you can work with it when you need like fast thrusting motions. I'm talking about swords.
The rapier's battlefield service record is almost non-existent. It succeeded at the wrong scale. Rank 6. Falchion. The
Okay, this is the one sword I know next to nothing about. I don't know much about falchions. I know they are short machete type swords. They're big choppers, and they have like a cross. They're basically like a long sword or an arming sword, but like with one edge. Kind of. I know next to nothing about these, so this will be interesting.
falchion looks like a weapon designed by someone who wanted
It's like a do not disturb setting.
Go
for
away,
your mind,
advertisement.
and it gets you focused in just 5 minutes. Using
maximum damage with minimum thinking. Forward heavy blade, single edge, devastating chopping power. And for
Choppy.
a brief period in the 13th and 14th centuries, it was genuinely widespread.
This is gonna suck against armor. Like you know exactly. This is gonna be this is a sword that requires minimal training, or less intricate footworky training. Requires less training, but it gonna be more effective in the battlefield. Yeah, it's effective, but then armor is gonna fuck it up. Have you heard of AdBlock? I'm broke. I also forgot to install. Okay, this is not my normal computer. I forgot to install it, and please don't judge me, dude. You know how bad I am at technology. Okay, are we gonna be like, oh yeah, I can't believe Captain Rookie is not on top of things? You know where you are. What was I saying? Okay, whatever. It's an infantry favorite. Yes. So infantry, right? Weapons that you give to soldiers, and this is true also to modern day stuff, it's not the most intricate weapon and the most advanced weapon. It's the weapon that requires the least amount of training for the best price with the less moving parts. It's the same thing that they had with the XM7 recently. There were guns or bullpup guns, right? The reason why bullpup rifles were never adopted into the military, or in most militaries, is that that movement is not something that is trained in that you have most time in the field with. So most guns are forward loading. So did you do it? What was it? Have you seen The King with Chalamet? Yes, I have, and that is a very good thing. The duel, yeah, the duel there, yeah, pretty much flawless in terms of dueling. Yeah, flawless. Bullpup sounds cute though. What is it even? Okay, so I can actually tell you. Okay. Bullpup rifle. That's this. So a bullpup rifle, right, loads from the back as opposed from the front. You go in from the rear instead of from the front, and it requires a different form of training in order to do that quickly. Whereas most guns, if you just do that, most guns load from the front, and you've seen John Wick just do like quick reloads. That's kind of more intuitive because your hand goes automatically in front of the gun because you're gonna be holding the gun like somewhere here. Whereas if you had a bullpup, your hands here, your other hands here, and then you need to reload back there. It's it's not impossible. It does require a little bit of more training, but most people, because the front-loading regular rifles are more common, if you have a personal rifle, you're gonna have that, and you're gonna practice with that. Grandpappy's rifle is gonna load from the front. Like it's gonna be that stuff. So it'll be more obvious that that's what the army will use because you don't have to spend 100 hours training them. You can only spend 20. The same thing with this type of sword. With this type of sword, you don't have to spend 20 like 100 hours training them. You just give them the basics and you're like, you know exactly how this works.
Spread among European infantry. Its problem was adaptability. As armor improved, the
Yep.
falchion's chopping power
became
became less
obsolete.
relevant.
Yep.
You cannot chop through plate. You thrust through gaps. The falchion was not designed for that transition.
Yep.
Armies that needed to adapt to heavier armor abandoned it for more versatile weapons. It served a specific era well and then became obsolete when that era ended.
Yeah, wrong place,
Short
wrong time.
battlefield lifespan, limited tactical flexibility. Effective for its moment, but its moment passed quickly. If this already contradicts what you thought you knew, subscribe. It gets more surprising from here.
It doesn't
Rank
contradict
5,
anything.
Arming sword. Nobody makes
Okay, so the arming sword is every time you see a knight with shield and sword, this is the sword they're using. It's a one-handed
movies about the
double-edged
arming
sword.
sword. It does not have a mythology. It is not considered legendary. It is
Yep.
also the weapon that European knights carried.
So this is not an arming sword. This is a long sword. Okay, a long sword is a double-handed sword that's longer, and you can also grip it like from the middle, and you can half sword, and you can wrestle with it. It is actually a point, and it's a more of a pokey sword because it's designed to go in between the gaps. An arming sword is meant to be used with a shield. And when it's used with a shield, you don't need to go like through the gaps of things because the reason you're using a shield is because your armor maybe isn't that good. What a baller pig though. It's so silly. Yeah, the pig's really good. I mean, it's AI awesomeness. I mean, look, AI isn't like, I know we're like, oh yeah, it's not good, it's not great, it's like it takes away from jobs and, it's not good for the environment. And these are all true. These are all true. But sometimes, dude, it makes great images. Sometimes it makes funny images. Like, look at the flappy. Look at the flappy over here. Look at the flappy. It's good. Man's got a. It's like when you go to give gas to your car, like the little petrol flap comes out, and you're gonna put a gas nozzle in there. I don't know if you can see it, but it's only funny in my head. Oh wait, you can't actually see it because my fucking Vtuber model is there. Yeah, I'm not gonna move it. Fuck it.
Carried for 4 consecutive centuries without significant replacement pressure, which tells you something the mythology cannot.
This is true. That this sword has not been replaced for a very long time. It only became replaced when guns were introduced. When literally a different form of technology rendered everything obsolete. This answered everything. This sword is it shows motion and action. Yeah, that's true. Even this picture is really cool. This sword is a thrusting weapon, it's a cutting weapon, and it's a wrestling weapon. You can actually use this to wrestle. You can use the pommel to strike, impact, and bludgeon. You can use the quillons to actually poke through eye holes. This sword kind of does it all. I mean, I own one, so I did practice with it a little bit, and it's true. The way that these handle are really just so epic when it comes to transitioning between techniques and different ranges. And that's really what you need. That's really what you need. You need basically a one piece of technology that kind of does it all. This only became obsolete when the soldiers became obsolete, when the knights themselves became obsolete, and gunfire and musketeers and all that stuff then became the norm. Mordhau, yes, yeah, Mordhau. Mordhau is actually the name of the killing stroke. Mord, death. Hau is hewing action, so it's the death stroke, which is this.
not. The arming sword's strength was boring competence. It
It's
cut,
not an
it
arming
thrust.
sword.
It worked with a shield. When shields declined and armor improved, it
This is
adapted,
making me mad.
developing a
It's
more
not an
tapered
arming sword.
profile for
It's a long
thrusting at
sword.
plate gaps.
They're different.
It was never
They're
the best
different.
sword for any single
A bicycle
scenario.
and a motorcycle
it was
are not
reliably
the same.
effective across all of them. From the 11th century Crusades
This is
through
making
the
me
14th
mad.
century, no army that adopted it felt compelled to abandon it entirely. Generalist weapons outlast specialists on real battlefields because real battlefields are unpredictable. The arming sword
Medieval
understood
cricket
this
simula-
before
yeah, yeah.
anyone had words
Yeah,
for it.
I know it's a
Rank
video game.
4, Great Sword.
Okay, so this is what I was talking about with the Naginata. This is the same thing. This one in particular is a flamberge or a flame-bladed one. These were more ceremonial. There is actually the little saw bladey thingy here. It hurts the cut more than it helps it. So this is not good. They're ceremonial. They're nice to look at. You would think they're scary. This is not gonna cut cleanly. So you want something that this actually will get stuck in bone and gristle. So you want something that you're able to cut and move out of the way with. And one day I will get a 3D model, and I will do some sword techniques and I will show you what I mean. But right now I can only just tell you, with footwork, you want to be able to draw your sword away and you want to be able to cut away and move yourself out of the way because there's a goddamn horse coming at you. So you don't want your sword to be stuck there. Or for it to be stuck with spears or for it to be stuck with anything. Some people say that these are great to be like sword catchers. I can tell you from experience that horsey. Don't make me laugh. Actually, do make me laugh. I need distractions today. My brain is going at 1,000 miles an hour. I can tell you from experience that when it comes to fighting with weapons, you don't want a bind. You don't want to bind your weapon with another person's weapon because that fucker has friends and an entire army behind him, and they're gonna poke you while you're still being occupied with that guy. You want to be able to knock that weapon away and have this blade free to come around and cut again. So straight sword is fine. You can also grab this one, by the way, by the small quillons right there, or you can grab it by the hilt and swing around for momentum. I like these. These are Montantes or great swords or Zweihander. My brain's in pain because I'm sick. Oh yeah. How are you feeling, by the way? I know you were sick. Coffee tastes like shit. Oh no. You had no coffee? Dude, have coffee anyway. I know it will taste like shit. Have it anyway. Because the caffeine, if you're used to caffeine, if you're like me and you need like 3 or 4 mugs of coffee a day, you need the caffeine. Because that's why you're feeling like shit right now. You need your drug.
If you're a native or fluent English-speaking expat living in Malta and you're looking for a new online career,
the greatsword ranks higher than most people expect for a reason almost no.
Oh, also, fun thing about the Zweihander, there were German soldiers called the Landsknecht. Is that how you say it? Sorry, I'm butchering that. And they actually were paid double for being able to use a greatsword. This was a specialist weapon, and it's sort of like being a sniper. You know, it's an extra special thing. Not like special like me, but more like special like actually useful. So yeah, Landsknecht. Yeah, exactly. Best flamboyant murderers of history. Yeah. They're the ones also with the cat's blagger. Yeah, which literally means cat's bladder, and it's a type of sword that they had. Yeah, those were the badasses of their time, and so some of them were specialized in the Zweihande, and they were paid more.
Nobody discusses. German Landsknecht mercenaries carrying the Zweihander received double pay. Not because commanders like the aesthetic, because those men were performing a specific, irreplaceable battlefield.
No one can ever tell me that I don't know my shit. This is the second or third time I preempted this video. No one can tell me I don't know my shit. I know swords, okay? I know swords.
Function that nothing else could replicate. Breaking pike formations. 16th century European battlefield tactics were dominated by dense blocks of pike-wielding infantry that could stop cavalry charges and grind through enemy lines. The great sword's extended reach could...
Bet you watched the video before the stream, so it looks like you know shit. You're getting banned. You're getting banned. I do not pre-watch this. I don't pre-watch shit. Okay, it's an honest reaction. I just have special interests. Okay, I was gonna say special needs. I have special interests. Okay, try me, bro. Uh, yeah, I just don't make fun of my special interests. Okay, I know. Look. We've already established that the thing that's actually useful for this job, which is to know technology, I don't have. I'm useless. Okay. Just let me have this one thing. Just let the goddamn streamer have one good thing. Just the one thing where they can feel like, yay, I'm giving a contribution. My my special brain is finally having its chance. All right? Just just be nice to me, goddammit.
Could sweep pike shafts aside, creating gaps for the infantry behind to exploit. It was not a general-purpose weapon. It was a tactical specialist that solved a problem no other sword could address at scale. The fact that armies paid a premium for greatsword specialists reveals battlefield value more honestly than any cutting test. You pay double for what you cannot replace.
Yep.
Rank 3, Longsword. The longsword is the only sword...
I hate this video right now because all the shit you said about the arming sword applies to the longsword. The longsword is all the shit you thought. Yeah, pre-watched. I'm having a fucking heart attack right now. Obviously, I wouldn't have a heart attack if I was pre-watched, right?
Sword in history with an entire documented martial system built around it. Multiple
That is true. The longsword is in fact the hemo weapon. Like when you talk about like Western martial arts, this is the thing we're talking about mostly. You had Meyer, you had Talhofer, you had Fiore de Liberi, I think, which are like the big three sword masters and I don't know, authorities on the style. Meyer specifically is more of a I think Meyer has everything from like fucking sickles to longsword to Messer and Dussac and pretty much anything. I don't know much about Talhofer. I know Fiore de Liberi is Italian longsword, and I think Thibaut is the one with the fencing stuff. I don't know. I don't know the names much because I don't care. But yeah, this weapon in particular has more books written about it and techniques and different styles. Like this was the different styles of swords. You had the German, you had the Italian. Those were the big two, and I think those were the big two because I know French, Spanish, and Italian. That later on became with the rapier stuff, but this was a transitional phase as well.
Independent European masters produced detailed combat manuals covering the longsword across 2 centuries. Lichtenauer in Germany, Fiore de Liberi in Italy. These were not theoretical texts. They were
Lichtenauer? Oh yeah, Lichtenauer. Yeah, also did that. Yeah, I was talking about Mayer or Meyer. I can never pronounce his name correctly.
practical training systems used by soldiers who fought in real wars. What those manuals reveal is the source of the longsword's durability. It could function as a cutting weapon, a thrusting weapon, a lever for controlling an opponent's blade, a short spear when gripped by the blade in half swording, and a bludgeon when swung pommel first in armored grappling.
Yeah, there's your Mordhau right there. This is what I would like to call a wrestling weapon as well, because as soon as you grab something with 2 hands, you have that two-way action, and that's what most wrestling really is. If you've done anything like judo or pankration, sambo, or even BJJ, this you need that two-handed action, that lever action, and this with a staff, for example, with a bow or with a quarterstaff, you basically get the same situation.
No other sword had this range of documented tactical
grappling
application.
is wrestling, basically.
Weighing between 2.5 and 4 pounds, it was fast enough for unarmored...
Hang on, what's the conversion here? Europeans, what's the conversion? My sword weighs 1.1 kilos, which is about 2 pounds, I think. Yeah, and that's on the lighter side. It's such a vibe. Love such techniques. I gotta go get some shit like that finally. If you're gonna get swords, I don't know where you're from, but you said you're from Europe. If you're from Europe, the Knight shop in the UK is where I got pretty much all of my weapons. The longsword one that I have is the Bosworth longsword by Windlass, and it's it's a sharp weapon, and it's like really really cool. As for training, yeah, you gotta look locally. I don't know. I don't know where you're from, so I don't know where you could go like to train. So yeah. But if you're gonna get something for Europe, it is expensive. It is the kit, the stuff that you need. It is expensive. It's an expensive hobby. Yeah. I mean, there's not much else to say about that. If you like it, it'll probably it's probably one of those things where like you buy the whole fucking thing and it'll last you a while. Unless you're into bodybuilding or you're like gaining a shit ton of weight, or you're putting on a bunch of muscle. I got really mad because most of my clothes I bought them before I started going to the gym, and I haven't bought clothes that fit me really well in about 5 years. So, I mean, I bought clothes, but most of them are like gym wear. I don't really have a lot of nice clothes, like the going out clothes, which is great because I don't go out. So it kind of works out. I stay indoors and I do this. So,
armored combat and adaptable enough for fully armored opponents. The longsword did not dominate because it was the most lethal blade.
No,
it dominated
it was a
because it was the
generalist.
most complete system. Rank
Yeah.
2, Gladius.
So the longsword was basically okay at thrusting, but there were other swords that were better at thrusting. It was okay at cutting, but there were better cutters. It was okay at armor piercing, but there were more armor piercing weapons. It just did everything. You had one piece of steel, one weapon that did everything. So it wins. It wins. So the next sword, the Gladius. This weapon is, I think, the most lethal sword per capita in the world. Like, this sword itself killed more people than anything else.
The Gladius is 18 inches long. By every visual metric
That's big.
of what a battlefield sword should be, it is underwhelming. It has no reach advantage, no dramatic cutting art, nothing that looks impressive from a distance.
Yep. So, the Gladius is a short sword. It's small. It's average. It's average. It has 0 handguard. The pommel weighs a bit too much, in my opinion. It's too big, too gaudy, too whatever. And it was, even the sheath was different, and the way it was held on the body. The reason being that that sword, much like the Viking sword actually, which is another sword I own, and I've discovered this for myself, the Viking sword and the Roman sword, the Gladius, right? By themselves, they suck. If you were to just like have a regular person and just arm them with that sword, that might be the worst sword to arm them with. But pair that sword with a shield, and that sword becomes the best weapon on that battlefield. And the reason for that being, it's just, it perfectly fits formation and shield formation fighting. That's basically it. You know, with a shield, that sword works.
It also helped Rome conquer the Mediterranean world and maintain military dominance for 5 centuries. That gap between appearance and outcome is exactly the point. The Gladius was not designed to be lethal on its own. It was designed to be lethal inside a system.
Exactly.
Roman legionaries used...
Weaponry is a system. You're right, Rad. Weaponry is a system. Weapons and methods on how to kill a person, and also methods on how to like fix a person, and weapons, basically anything is a system. The moment you figure out the system and you figure out the opponents, that's great. This is something I also pre-watched. You fucking cheater, get out of my chat. No, please don't go. I love you, please don't leave me. What was I gonna say? Oh yeah, like for example, one of the reasons why right now all the modern wars that we have, so Ukraine, Iran, and Palestine, right? I mean, by the time this comes out, maybe there will have been another war. I don't know. But one of the reasons, for example, why Ukraine specifically, this started with Ukraine, why that was such a one of the surprises that we had with this war is drones. So drones is something that were never used with this alarming amount of frequency in any, because the technology just hadn't caught up, and thankfully there hadn't been any more wars until certain dictators decided that it was time to remind the world of how small their penises are. But you know, uh, uh, wait, who owns Twitch? Who owns Twitch and YouTube? Hang on a second, is it still the Americans? Um, Basically, oh wait, no, they're one of the dictators. Yeah. Anyway, so the reason why yeah, there's been a couple of issues with drones being used in these wars and how to combat that. And I've heard soldiers say that, like, um, you get soldiers that never fire their weapon, they never fire their pistols and rifles and all that stuff. Most of the war is done with drones, and this is a new thing, right? Just like in World War One, for example, shelling and mortar shelling and trench warfare with machine guns was a completely new thing. So you're right, in the sense that a system, the moment you figure out a system and you figure out the advantage that you have within that system, you own it. It's like you own the meta. The moment that that changes, there is a particular sword here called the Dacian Falx that was designed to break through these shields and to break through these formations that the Romans hated. So yeah, the warrior you're too small is insignificant to be targeted. Yeah, watch me get drone struck right now.
Use the scutum shield offensively, driving it forward to destabilize opponents, creating openings the gladius exploited with
You just
tight,
needed a
fast
gap.
thrusts.
Little
Historical
gap,
sources
little
document
shot.
Roman legionaries delivering
That's
up
what
to
my
4
girlfriend
stabs
says.
per
Little
second
gap,
in
little
close
shot.
formation, compared to 1 slashing blow every 2 seconds with longer weapons.
This is also fake, by the way. Long swords and arming swords and all that, they weren't like these big clunky things that couldn't be used. They were fast. They were fast. You just needed better technique. Through Twitch overlords are watching. Yeah, they're all watching. They're always watching.
The Macedonian soldiers who faced the gladius at the Battle of Cynocephalae in 197 BC were reportedly horrified not by the sword's appearance, but by what it did to bodies at close range.
Yeah.
Polybius recorded their reaction
at close
as
range. This fucking sword just hewed through. Basically, human butchery. It was human butchery. Yeah, and just, I mean, imagine just being in a battlefield and just listening to the cries and the screams of people missing limbs or having their arms split in two. That's a thing that happens. Or their legs split in two, like you suddenly like have two pieces of thigh meat just flapping. Yeah, these are things that are not nice about warfare.
psychological collapse. That is what a correctly designed system weapon does. It does not impress at a distance. It ends the fight before the enemy can recover.
Rank 1.
I am busy enough, and my boss thinks I can handle training a new hire.
You obviously haven't heard of Scribe, have
Saber.
Yes! Yes! I love sabers. Sabers are cool. The cutlass is a form of saber. This cutlass is a mini saber, basically. And this weapon right here, this weapon is a weapon that A, grew with the times, and B, adapted itself to be used. So, here's why I love the saber, right? And I don't know what's going to be said in the next 2 minutes, but this is my saber is the second best melee weapon ever invented. What's the first one? What's the first one? If you say hammer, I'm throwing something at you. So broken wine bottle. Okay, based. Okay, yeah, based. What was I gonna say? Oh yeah, so sabers. Whether they're straight, whether they're curved, whether they're the lighter sort of infantry weapon or the heavier cavalry sabers. So the testament to this is that there's a self-defense criterion, right? In a system where you don't have armor anymore, straight up, we're gonna go to sabers. Look, I'm being paid by Big Saber, okay? You caught me. What was I saying? Yep. Yeah. There's so much editing that needs to be done to this video. Here's me thinking it's gonna be a quick 12 minute YouTube video. Nah, man. We've been yapping for fucking 3/4 of an hour. Anyway, sabers are cool because they fit the criterion of self-defense weapons. In a world where you don't have armor, where you have unarmed opponents, and where you have confined spaces, or whether you have quick melee bursts but also gunfire and guns being used, the saber still had a place. So think of, for example, the cutlass, right, on a battleship. The cutlass fit because it was also a utility weapon, but it also fit because it was great to be. It had a very slow learning curve, and it could be used with pistols. It's a one-handed weapon that is very intuitive to use. With a saber, with a long, to say, cavalry saber, you just ride in through a horse, and the momentum will just carry on. It's an intuitive weapon, and it is. I hope I'm the very reason for editing. Yes, you are. Yes, half of this is your fault, Rad. Half of this is your fault. I'll send you the fucking editing bill. How about that? And so, essentially, as a weapon, it is adaptable enough in different situations, and that's why it's been around for long. For example, the American Civil War, you had guns, you had spears, you had cavalry, and you had just dudes in a group, right, in a foot formation, basically charging through. Whichever scenario that was, you did have people that carried some form of a saber weapon, or some sort of a sword, like choppy, cutty, stabby, weapon. And it just, it's a very adaptable design. It's a super adaptable design. It's like the best parts of the falchion and the longsword, and also a bit more of a specialized weapon as well. It's just, if there was a generalist weapon of the modern era, this would be it.
The saber is the correct answer, and almost no ranking gives it this position. Here's why it wins by a margin that is not close. The military saber remained the standard cavalry weapon across European and American armies from the 1630s through World War I. Nearly
Yep.
3 centuries of continuous active military deployment without a superior sword-based replacement ever emerging. Saber charges were documented as tactically decisive at Eylau in 1807, where Murat's cavalry broke Russian artillery positions. The last U.S. cavalry saber was
Pretty much every culture had a saber around this time, whether it's the American, like, is it the M something? I can't remember. They have design number for them and serial number for them. They have a typology for them. This is what I'm trying to say. Um, there was the pattern, a typology for the British weapons, and um, then you have Eastern variations of these, like the Russian shashka, and even the Japanese. Even the Japanese had one-handed sabers, had one-handed katanas, basically. I forget what it's called, but there are one-handed katanas, and there's also katanas that were mounted with single-handed saber style grips. So grips and this big handguard right here. Um, Cowgirl. I'm reading. What cowgirl? I'm reading FAQ. Oh. Uh, we're not gonna discuss that.
was not officially retired until 1934. That is a battlefield service record that no other sword type in history approaches. But the reason the
Yep.
saber held that position
This design, by the way, this is a cutlass. Here's how you can tell. Here's how you can tell, chat. Number one, shorter. Cutlass was about 2/3 the length of a saber. And also, you see all this brass right here, and the handle is brass or steel. That is the reason that is done on purpose, because when you have wood or leather, it will erode with sea spray or sea foam. So you would have something that's more, hard metal.
reveals something more important than its design. It
I'm
was
also liking the
trainable
video.
at scale. A cavalry recruit could
Yes, thank you. It is trainable at scale. It's no use having a complex weapon that only 2 soldiers can use. You need a soldier that everyone can use. Whether it's someone with formal training, or in the case of the American Civil War, for example, a freed slave who's never seen a sword before. You can just give them this and go, choppy time, and they're gonna get it. It's trainable at scale. Thank you, video. Now you make sense.
develop functional saber technique in weeks. The curved blade's geometry made the slashing motion from horseback almost intuitive, converting
Yep.
the horse's momentum into cutting force without requiring years of precise technique development. Armies could equip thousands of soldiers with sabers, train them quickly, replace blades cheaply, and produce consistent
Yep.
battlefield results across multiple generations of
It's a sword design that doesn't require a specific type of steel either. It doesn't require like a certain high element of carbon, or a certain flexibility of steel. You can just get any old pig iron, turn it into this shape and it's going to work. That's how stupidly effective this design is.
Recruits. The katana required a lifetime of training. The
Yep.
longsword required a martial system. The saber required
The longsword required a martial system and also required a specific type of enemy. It became obsolete. A saber is not gonna work against a knight. It's just not gonna work, right? It has the same functionality as a katana, really. They're both like single-edged, curved cut and thrust swords. It's not gonna work, but for the time that it was in, the knights had already been made obsolete because you had this thing called pistols and rifles and gunpowder and boom boom bang sticks that made people die from across the street.
a few weeks and a horse. Look at every sword that ranked high in this list. The gladius, the longsword, the saber. None of them were the most dangerous blade in a one-on-one fight between two skilled warriors. The rapier probably wins that contest. The katana makes a strong argument. But neither the rapier nor the katana could be multiplied across 10,000 soldiers and produce consistent, reliable, catastrophic results against an enemy army.
This is also like one of the arguments for 22 caliber weapons. It's like they work and they're effective, but then no army uses them because, well, they can't be, the results can be replicated at scale. And the same thing, scale in terms of soldiers is different than a one-on-one duel or a one-on-one functionality. For example, if you're gonna go out hunting for bears, you want 10mm, you want like the biggest fucking grizzly magnum caliber you can find, right? Because you're hunting a fucking bear. But you basically take, I don't know, some dude off the street and say like, oh yeah, you're a new recruit now for an army, right? And it's the first 2 weeks of training, and here's how I'm gonna teach you how to shoot a pistol. You give them that caliber, they're gonna break their wrist and they're never gonna want to shoot again, right? So but you also don't want to give them an underpowered caliber, like the 22, for example. 22 caliber is the most popular caliber on planet Earth. Bar none. I think it comes just under or just over 9mm, something like that. So 22 caliber, for example, is very popular, but it has no context with 9mm because 9mm is also very maneuverable, manageable. I'm having a beer and it's working. So yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. Did the ball distract you? Yeah, all balls tend to distract me.
Battlefield effectiveness was never a metallurgy question. It was never a lethality question. It was always a logistics question. How quickly can you train a soldier? How cheaply can you replace a broken blade?
Yep.
How consistently does the weapon perform when the person holding it is exhausted, terrified, and fighting in chaotic close quarters rather than a controlled duel?
If you ever want to test, by the way, this is a beer, damn alcoholic. Where's my yeah, so actually I'm gonna finish this and then get back to my point.
Every sword that dominated militarily answered those questions correctly. Every sword that failed answered the wrong question brilliantly. The most lethal sword and the most effective battlefield sword have almost never been the same weapon. That gap is not a failure of military thinking. It is the entire point. Armies do not need the most dangerous blade. They need the most deployable one. And that distinction changes every ranking you have ever seen.
Work today.
Amen. Okay, so you can fuck off. You can go
Every sword ranking gets this backward.
Stop. Hush. Yeah, so I'm gonna be here. I'm gonna move to the center stage now, and that's gonna happen. Yeah, so the reason why I forgot my point. Kopesh, what a freaky boy. The Kopesh, for example, is an excellent weapon. The problem with the Kopesh is that it was too complex a design. Is it an axe? Because they're like, oh yeah, you can hook with it, you can chop with it, you can do this. It was meant to be on chariot, which chariots, by the way, super ineffective in war. Like, they're just dumb. Chariots are a dumb idea, right? Until the time of Tutankhamun, and they were used okay, but then they just stopped being used okay. I don't know what happened to them. Right. So trainability at scale. That's the most important thing. And if you ever want to be, oh yeah, this is the message. so yesterday with the knife, right? And I trained knife fighting with in my Campornis place where I train. You ever want to see a tough guy get really humbled? That's what you do. You give them a weapon and you're like, okay, try not to get cut. And they suddenly realize, oh, this is the reality. Oh, this is bad. Right? It's like it's an equalizer. An equalizer when it comes to weaponry. I think that's it. I think that's it for today. I think thank you for joining my stream, and I think I'm just gonna fuck off.